And we're off. Okay. Good morning, everyone. And I feel like this sounds weird. I'm kind of a weird person. So we got a Peloton bike 2 years ago. So I'm like totally full into the Peloton cult. So I feel like one of the instructors like, what's up, Peloton? So this is lifespan development. So, hey, I'm glad everyone's here. This class, a lot of times I just do like a video, hello and welcome, but I thought, hey, let's do it live today. So this is 1 hour live and explaining the class, the expectations, the assignments, and then answering any questions that you have about those assignments. And so as we start today, I'm kind of curious how many of you, like this is your very first class at Amberton. I'm just curious. Got a couple of people. Okay. Don't be nervous. It's going to be awesome. You're going to do great. How many people, this is your first class in like years? Yeah, me too. I went through the exact same thing. I was a youth pastor before I did this, went back to school 10 or so years later. And so I know it's a big learning curve. So a lot of people, this is one of their first classes that they take at Amberton. So I'll try to keep that in mind. And some of the assignments we have, we'll also keep that in mind. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. This class is a pretty, in terms of information, is a big class. Like there's a ton of information. The book, as you can tell, is super thick and the writing is very, very small. So that means there's a lot of information. We're going to cover as much as we can. And so basically what I've done is broken the class into 3 sections. For our Zoom purposes, we're going to talk about childhood, we're going to talk about adolescence, and then we're going to talk about adulthood. Each one of those contain similar aspects of development in terms of cognitive development, socio-emotional development, and just biological development or the physical development of someone. Okay, and we'll talk about all those areas. That's also how the book is broken down. So each developmental stage is broken into those categories too, which I kind of like. I like that the book does that, kind of breaks it down like that, so we can kind of track things. Because a 2-year-old Abigail is going to have a different developmental stage than a 12-year-old Abigail. In 10 years, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to happen. Then a 22-year-old Abigail. Then 20 years, a ton of things are going to happen neurologically, which we will talk a lot about. And we will talk specifically, like practically speaking, like when someone's sitting across from you and you're expected to help them in some way, what does that mean? What does that look like? And how do we take developmental perspectives into account when we work with people? So we'll do a little bit of all those things. These Zoom classes are mainly designed to be super practical. You're going to read a lot. The assignments are going to ask you to do certain things and process information a certain way, mostly written. When we meet together on a Zoom class, it's going to be super practical, and we'll do some breakout rooms where I'll ask you to answer questions with each other. We'll talk about opinions. We're going to talk about your experiences. The first thing I learned when I taught this class the very first time back in 2013 is that everyone in here has got a couple of things that they bring to this class that are super helpful. The first thing is everyone here is in a developmental stage right now. All of us, we're different ones, right? The second thing is because we're all at different developmental stages, we also have different experiences as well. Experiences from our past. They could be come from the environment we grew up in. They could come from our ethnicity. They could come from our gender. They could come from our sexual orientation. There's lots of different levels there that everyone here brings, right? So because of that, we all have our own opinions about development. Most of the time, our opinions revolve around what? Our own personal experience for the most part, right? The book is going to stretch you a little bit to think about not necessarily opinions, but looking at development from a holistic standpoint, right? So not just like the stage I'm in and I just need to focus on it, but what about other stages, right? So what about what happens in childhood? What about what happens in adolescence? And what about what happens in adulthood? because there's some distinct things that happen in each one of those stages. And we're going to talk about some of those. When we talk about childhood next week, one of the things that we're going to specifically focus on will be looking at things like parenting, for example, and the developmental stage that happens for parents at childhood, whether they're married or not married, they're caretakers, they're grandparents. There's specific things that happen for the kids that also affect the family. We'll talk about some of those things. When we get to the adolescent stage, it's kind of broken into two. Really, you can break adolescence into three parts if you want. You can break it into the junior high level, like the 12 to 14-year-old. You can break it into high school, that 15 to 18. And then really adolescence kind of reaches all into the mid 20s. So we could say, 19 to 25, because we know that certain parts of our brain really aren't fully online and developed until we're around 25. Some people do that a little earlier, some people a little bit later. We'll talk about that too. All right. So before we go much further down that road, I do want to talk about the assignments super quick and give some explanation of a couple of things. So I'm going to, and there's actually a, I'm going to pull up the, I'm sorry, I meant to have this up before. It takes my computer a while for some reason to grab the PowerPoint. I've got some PowerPoint slides on Moodle that kind of describe, and I'm going to pull those up and show you, that kind of describe a couple of things. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I've got dogs in the background of me, like going, something's happening. I don't know what's going on. That means my dog will probably start barking any minute now. So you'll probably get to hear Max this morning. All right. All right, so we have different exercises that will be due at different times during the semester. We have exams that have study guides, and we have a paper that's due at the very end. I'm going to talk about each one of those with you. I'm going to start with the exercises. In your book, you'll see sections that look like this: review, connect, and reflect. There's like 3 or 4, sometimes only 2 in each chapter, depending on the chapter. Some chapters are kind of long, they might have 4. I pulled this, I think this is the first one. This is the very first one in the book, right? You'll see here, there's a review section that has some questions, 3 or 4 questions in each one right here. So so basically what you're going to do on paper, what you're going to turn into me is answer each section. Okay, there's questions in each section. There's review questions, connect questions, and reflection questions. The reflection is exactly what it sounds like. Hey, imagine you develop, what would it have been like if you were in a different culture? That's what this one's like. And you'll just kind of reflect on that, right? The review questions and the connect questions mostly are found in the chapter, like the information's in the chapter. I like these little review, connect, reflect sections because they help you start to process and synthesize the information that you're reading. It's a lot of information in the book and it comes at you quick, right? So I like these because it really starts pulling it out of you. But the flip side of that is it's not hard, but it makes you think. So that can be hard sometimes, especially if you're not used to thinking about the material as you go. Some people read material and just kind of take notes and move on. Some people, so everyone kind of learns differently. This will be directed towards a couple of different learning styles. One, people that like to write and process, this will be super helpful for you. Also people that are visual, because there's lots of great visualizations in the text that'll be helpful for you. If you're a verbal processor though, this is going to be tough. This is going to be a difficult one. I'm a verbal processor. I process things out loud as I'm going. So this is going to sound weird. Sometimes I would read this out loud and I would say out loud what I'm typing. I do that. That's just if you're verbal, that's just what you do, right? Okay. Each assignment, each exercise, you're going to choose 2 of these sections, 2 of these review, connect, reflects. Okay. It's probably easier if they're in the same chapter. Like this is from the first chapter. I think there's 2 in the first chapter, if I'm not mistaken. There might be 3, but I think there's 2. You can choose that. Okay. Every assignment will have 2 of these, right? Okay. So when you turn it into me, I'll see 2 review, connect, reflect sections that you've written about, not 1. I'm not sure why, but a high percentage of students only do 1 of these every assignment. I'm not sure why, but it does happen. Probably because you just kind of get in a hurry, and I'll send it back to you. I'll be nice, say, hey, you're missing 1. That's your 1 get out of jail free card. You get to do that. You get 1 do-over. But I know everyone in this class is going to be so different than all the other classes, and you're all going to be rock stars. You're going to do it right the first time. It's going to be awesome. I know it. I can feel it. Right? So how many of these sections are we going to do each assignment? 2. Thank you so much. 2 of these. Okay. So if you're watching from home, we're going to do 2. Every exercise will have 2. That's the first part. The second and third part are kind of the same thing. You're going to have a forum, right? So if you go on Moodle, you'll see forums, and you'll see it on Moodle, forum discussion, you know, for exercise 1, 2, and 3. When you go on there, you're going to answer a question that's on Moodle. There's a question on there. It's usually like a reflection question most of the time, reflecting on what you just wrote about, basically. And you're going to post your comment there on Moodle. And then you're going to make comments on 2 other people's posts. You're going to have a week between when you turn the first part into me and when the forum posts are due. You have a week to do that. So for example, June 25th is your first assignment, first exercise is due to me, the written part. The 2 review, connect, reflect sections are due to me on the 25th. So you have a week, which I think takes us to July 2nd, to post to the forum and make comments, right? Some of you will do that immediately after you turn that into me. Some of you will wait till Saturday, the next Saturday, to do it. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. Some people like the thrill of procrastination to give them stress, and they get so stressed and anxious that they finally do it. That's cool, whatever. Some people are like, oh, I can't take it. I got to do it now. If I don't do it now, I don't know what's going on, right? It doesn't matter to me. You can do it however you want. Okay. This is wrong. I got to change some of this. I want to talk about the paper. I'm going to talk about the exams next. But before I do, any question about the review, connect, reflect assignments? We're going to do 2 of them each exercise. Any question about that before I move on? Don't be scared. Don't be shy. Okay. I'm the greatest communicator that's ever communicated, or you just don't know what question to ask yet. That's okay.
There was a question in the chat.
Chat. What's up, chat? Yeah, just 1. You only make 1 forum post, but you're commenting on 2 posts. Good question, Morgan. Yeah, you only make 1 post, but you're commenting on 2. Yep.
You might be hitting this later, but with the APA assignment, I noticed it says part 1, but I didn't notice any other parts. I just want to see if I was mistaken.
I made a change to that. We're going to hit that in a second. Thank you for asking, though. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I made a change to that. You're going to like the change too. It's going to be helpful. It's going to change your world. Any other questions about this first exercise? All right, let's talk about the exams. This is very straightforward, okay? There's 2 exams. There's a midterm and a final. They're both 75 questions. There is a study guide for the midterm and a study guide for the final. If you use the study guide and complete the study guide, you will do really well on the test, on the exam. The questions on the exam are suspiciously similar to the questions on the study guide, like pretty much exact, okay? And you can use the study guide on the exam. And you can use your book if you want to. Now, why would I do that? Because you're going to do it anyway, even if I said don't do it, because I can't regulate it. It's all online. Plus, I'm kind of the opinion that I want you to learn the material. And contrary to popular belief, there's two types of tests. There's one test where, yeah, you need to memorize things and learn things and regurgitate it. That is one type of exam, one type of test. If we were doing this class and I was doing it that way, I would have like 4 or 5 of those throughout the class. We do a lot, right? It'd be like just beyond a quiz. We do several tests like that, where every week I'd give you something, hey, regurgitate this. This exam structure is like a midterm and final, and it's very broad and kind of general. And so I want you to be able to know where to find the information, which is a different kind of exam, right? We need to learn how to find information when we're out in the field. And that's what this is that's why it's like this, right? The second reason why I give this type of exam is if you do the study guide, that also tells me that you're reading, because the study guide's probably harder than the exam, because you're gonna have to search and apply, and you're gonna have to use your brain. So I'm a big believer in using brains. I'm a big believer in how we learn best is struggling. I know that sounds horrible to some people, but when we struggle, we tend to do pretty well. All right. Now that doesn't mean I want you to be bogged down in struggle, but you're gonna feel you're gonna be on the struggle bus when you're doing the study guides, but it all pays off on the exam. Okay. So midterm, final, 75 questions. You technically have 4 hours to do the exam, each exam. You won't need that long. If you do the study guide, you can do the whole exam in like an hour or under for sure. Okay. Here's how the exams work, and you'll see on the midterm and the final, there'll be a link. You'll click the link. It'll take you to the online test site. You'll put in your information and create a username and password, which logs you into the exam. You start the exam, and let's say the exam opens on a Friday and always closes on a Wednesday. Let's say on Friday you log in and you do 2 questions and you're like, I don't want to do anymore. It's Friday. I'm tired. You log out, it stops the time and saves your spot, right? So you say Sunday, you wake up Sunday and you think it, and then you go through your whole day, and at 5 o'clock, you're like, I really want to take on this exam. Log back in and you step back in right where you left off. When you're finished with the exam, it gives you the grade right then and then sends me an email with the grade as well. Some people will be anxious that I don't ever see the grade or that you didn't take it or something. So you'll screenshot that grade and send it to me via email. And that's okay. If that makes you feel better, awesome, do it. I still get the grade. I can still see it. I can see everyone. I can actually see who is currently taking the exam and where you are. I can actually see all of that information. Right? So I'll get a copy of the score and you'll know your score right then too. And if you missed any questions, you'll know what those are. Okay? The exam process is pretty straightforward. Unless you haven't taken an online exam before, it'll feel kind of goofy at first, but it's actually a pretty easy process. All the exams are multiple choice. No short answer or anything like that. Okay? Any questions about the exam?
Can I ask about the study guide?
Absolutely.
Do you check the study guide, or we just do the study guide and then do the test? So that, and what if we have problems with some of the questions on the study guide?
That is a great question. Could you pronounce your first name for me?
Sadia.
Sadia.
Yeah.
Sadia, this is a great question. And so I have put a midterm and final forum discussion specifically for these questions for students to go on and talk to each other.
Awesome.
For example, if Sadia, you get on the midterm and you're on question, I don't know, 25, and you're like, I don't know this answer. You can go on the forum and say, hey, does anyone else have a problem answering question 25? You know, and 3 other people might have the same problem. Y'all can talk about it. And I've even had students in the past that get on Zoom calls with each other and go over the study guide with each other, kind of like test prep almost. We used to do that when we had a full class, like we were in person class, right? People would bring their study guides to class and literally sit there in big groups and go over the study guide with each other because some of the answers are tough. So I've put a forum discussion on Moodle specifically for those things. So I don't technically check your study guide. That's really for you, honestly. But I know that if you go through the study guide and use it, you'll do really well on the exam. Sadia, does that answer your question? Hopefully.
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions about that?
I have a question.
Yeah.
This may be a silly question, but where is the study guide?
Everything's on Moodle, right? So when you go on your Moodle page here, I'll show you what it looks like. Hang on a second. Let me get over here. No silly questions. Can everybody see that? Hopefully. I don't know. This is what my Moodle screen looks like. I'm assuming yours looks very similar. So here's the midterm study guide. Here's the final study guide right here,
Yes. Okay,
kind of
I
towards
see.
the top. I have also put these 2 documents here that are strictly for you to use anytime you want. If you're on the phone now, I can see it better. These are just there for you to use. Like I've just kind of basically put a synopsis of every, it's basically the whole book. It's all kind of right here, right? I have a lot of students that come back to these when they start studying for the exam, like a licensing exam, because this is just good general information. For example, the developmental theories, we'll talk about some of them in here, but you'll talk about these a lot more in other classes. We just kind of hit the highlights. So your study guides are right here. Here's the midterm study guide forum. And I think I accidentally erased the final study guide forum, but I'll put it back up today. I don't know why I did that, but I accidentally erased it. Okay.
Got it.
Any other questions about the exams?
I don't have a question about the exam, but I was wondering if it's okay to use the 17th edition instead of 18th for the book.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. They just updated probably some statistics. There's a couple of different illustrations. There's a couple of different graphics, but I think that's fine. I think there's actually 19th edition that's just about to come out. So I can't even keep up sometimes. This particular book changes a lot because we're finding out more information too about some of these things, especially neurologically. So yes, you can use that. Edition's fine. Did anyone have trouble getting the book by any chance? There's several different versions too. Like there's an electronic version, there's a loose leaf, hardcover. Okay, let's talk about the paper. I'm going to come back to the APA style assignment in a second, but I want to talk about the paper. No, I didn't mean to do that. No, it's okay. All right. Let's talk about the paper. Okay. This paper is kind of a hybrid because it's the first part is a research part where you're going to do full research. And then the second part, which is only about 20% of the paper, is reflection. So reflecting on what you just researched and reflecting on what you just learned or didn't learn, or the research is basically you're going to choose a life stage of development. Okay. You can choose childhood, you can choose adolescence, you can choose adulthood. You can choose any stage, and you can choose anything, any time frame specific inside those stages if you'd like. You're just going to give the basic information that's listed there. Okay, super basic. You're also going to talk about a disorder or an issue that comes up in that developmental stage. It could be ADHD. It could be eating disorders. It could be anxiety or depression. It could be Alzheimer's. It could. I've had students talk about things like corporal punishment. Even I've had students talk about divorce. I've had student. It could be any disorder or issue, and this is where you're going to heavily research it, because our book talks about some of those things, but not a lot of them, and especially not specifically to whatever disorder or issue you're looking up. Right. Along with talking about that disorder or issue or and how it affects that specific developmental stage, you're going to talk about how to treat those things, which again is where you're going to do a lot of your research. Maybe it's cognitive behavioral therapy will treat this particular disorder. Maybe it's narrative therapy. Maybe it's something different than that. It's all going to be within that research piece that you're going to look at. Okay. That's about 80% of the paper. That's a lot. That's a big chunk of the paper, right? The reflection part is the second piece, which is only about 20%. And it's got 4 questions. Why did you choose this? What did you learn? Did your opinion change? And what would you like to study further? And I've listed this on the actual paper that you'll see on Moodle. I'll go into a little bit more detail than here. And I'm actually going to talk specifically a little bit more about this paper as we go too. But when you do this reflection part, you don't really need to cite anything because that's your opinion, right? You're reflecting on what you think or what you believe or what you learned. The research part is heavy citation, right? This is heavy APA citation. Okay. 4 to 6 pages is fine. It doesn't need to be, this isn't a 20-page research paper because I can't read 45 of those or do it really well. I don't really want to. If I can read 4 to 6 pages, I can do that pretty cool. I can do that easily, right? You don't need an abstract, but you do need a title page and you do need references. Okay. All right. So you need 4 references minimum. So one of those can be the book. That's fine. But 3 of those at least need to be outside the book. Articles, another book. Okay. Any questions about this before I move on? And this is all on Moodle too, by the way. There's an actual document describing this. I just put this on PowerPoint so we kind of go through it. Any questions about this? This paper's due like August 13th, I believe, or something like that.
Can I just ask again, because I'm going to England for a month.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to kind of get ahead and organize myself so I can download those study guides and start doing them. If I want to start doing my main assignment, I can start doing that as well.
You can do anything you want. You can do the whole class in the next week if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Except for the exams. The exams are only open at certain times.
Okay. But if I do the study guide, then at least that way I'm kind of
You're ready.
For whenever they're open. Yeah.
You're ready. And if you do the study guide, that also means you're reading because you have to read a lot to get through the study guides.
Yeah.
The midterm is the first part of the book, the first half, and the final is the back half of the book.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, let me go. If you, Dr. Beck, if so, you're saying on an exam while we're doing it, we can stop it and come back later and do it again. Did I hear that correctly?
That's right. You got it.
Wow. Okay. So we have 4 hours to get it done.
That's it. You got it.
All right.
I'm so nice. Isn't that nice?
Love you.
Mm. All right. Love it. Please refer to the document on Moodle about the paper. It's not daunting. It shouldn't be too difficult. But let's talk about the APA don't worry about this due date. I just didn't change this PowerPoint. All the due dates are on. Actually, I'll just go to that. Hang on a second. I'll just go over here. Let me just go over here. That's not sharing. Come on, man, share. There we go. This thing is not working with me today. There we go. Okay. So this is in the addendum part of your syllabus because I made a couple of changes. Basically, there's no changes to the exercise or the paper, but I did change the APA. I used to do 2 of these assignments. I combined that down to 1. It is due more towards the first part of the semester on purpose. If you, especially for those that have never really written an APA before, or you struggle writing an APA, I do this assignment for you specifically. And so basically all you're doing for this assignment is you're going to find a journal, any journal article, I don't care what it is, right? And you're going to do 2 sentences for the assignment. 1 sentence, you're going to directly quote the article, like a line from the article, and cite it correctly. The second sentence is you're going to do a paraphrase of a quote. It can be the same quote, but it's in your words, and cite it correctly. Okay. Then you're going to have a short little reference, like basically tell me where the article's from, right? You're going to reference the article. You'll do all of this in APA style, which is different than MLA style. It's not a footnote. You don't have footnotes in APA. You have a reference page. Okay. If you want to cheat, when you direct quote, hang on a second, I'll make this bigger. When you direct quote something in APA, you have a parentheses. So you could say depression is the leading cause of whatever, you know, sleeplessness. I don't know, whatever. You're going to have a parentheses. You're going to have the author. You're going to have the year. And you're going to have the page number. Then the period. Okay. When you're paraphrasing, you're going to have the author state blah, 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 whatever, author or authors, comma, the year, close parentheses, period. That's it. I don't know any reason why you guys would have to do anything more elaborate than that on this particular assignment, like the paper. Where it can kind of get hairy is when you start having multiple authors, right? So let's say there's 3 authors. You would list the 3 authors the first time you quote something, but after that, you could list, you know, Bedard et al. 2022, whatever, right? Or you could say Bedard and colleagues, blah, blah, blah. You could do it multiple ways, okay? So you're going to give me, this one would be sentence number 1. And this would be sentence number 2. Okay. And then you would have a reference, right? Name of the article, author, date, journal, if you got it from a journal, where you got it, that kind of thing. Very specific. Okay. Now, what I've given you I don't know if this is still what I've given you guys. Is I have given you a link to what's called Purdue Online Writing Lab. I use this through my whole doctoral dissertation, through all my master's program, because this is basically the 7th edition of APA, all right here. So you can go over here and say, I need to know how to format something, right? And I can go over here and say, well, how do I list what's a reference look like? And it tells you exactly how to do it. And it'll give you instructions and examples and all that stuff, okay? This is all on Moodle, okay? So I've given you this so you can see it. Okay. Does that make sense, hopefully, to everybody? Any questions about that? I first started doing the APA assignment because this class specifically gets a lot of folks that are maybe brand new to Amerton or brand new to coming back to school and maybe never written in APA style. And so I just kind of want to help you learn how to do it, because you're going to have to do it in every class. You'll do this from now on.
So the exercises are APA style too?
Everything's APA, yeah.
Everything?
You don't, with the exercises, it's not as, I'm not going to be as ticky tack on that, because I know you're getting it from the book, right? Like I know it's not your thought. I always tell students to write everything in APA just to practice. I think it's good to practice personally. But I'm not going to get real ticky tack on that one with you guys. With the APA style assignment, I will get ticky tacky and I'll send it back to you and say, hey, try it, do it again. I'll give you a chance to do it over. Okay. And that's why I have it due kind of towards the beginning, like July 2nd, which is like, well, it's technically like 3 weeks. So you got a lot of time for that. Any questions about those? Any questions about anything we've talked about so far? Good. Awesome. Okay. So let me make sure I'm covering. Okay. So I will, as we meet, like next week is our first like big, class, like full on class when we meet next week. I know that some people have other classes on Saturday, either other Zoom classes or in person. I record all the classes so you can watch them and see them. So you're not necessarily missing anything that we did live. You'll see everything from the beginning to the end. Including if I stay over, sometimes I stay over a little bit longer and answer questions. I'll record that too, so you can have that. And so we'll record and I'll usually post it within a couple of days or so of that. I've got a YouTube channel that I put everything on. There's actually, you can go on the YouTube channel and see all the past classes too from every class that I've done. So if you're bored, if you're super bored this summer, you just want to like blow a bunch of time, go down a wormhole of watching professor classes, you can jump on there and it's, I don't know why you do that, but some people might want to do that. Okay. The book, like I said, is there's a lot of information. It's a big book. There's a lot of stuff going on. So I'll do my best to be super practical with what we talk about in our Zoom time. I will probably lean heavy on two things. The first is like clinical application, like when we're meeting with clients, what's this look like? And I will talk a lot about like neuroscience. We'll talk about those two things a lot in these Zoom times. Okay. We'll also do breakout rooms. And so we're actually going to do one right now. It's going to be fun. Everyone here is going to love it because everyone here loves getting in groups. Everybody loves it. It's like your favorite thing in the world. And when we're meeting in person in class, guess what? We do groups too, and people love it. I mean, it's like their most favorite thing in the world to do. It's kind of like when you go to church and you have to do the meet and greet. Everyone loves that so much. This is the same thing. Okay. I'm gonna put you into groups of like 2 or 3, probably. Now we got like, what we got here? 14. I'll probably do like groups of 3, something like that. Literally all you're going to do is like, hey, I am Chris. This is my first semester, 10th semester, whatever. I'm going in the LPC track or LMFT track, or I'm not doing counseling at all, whatever. Right. And the thing that I'm most excited about this class is this. Right. So name, LPC, LMFT, then whatever semester you're in and what you're excited about. And then we're only going to do that so you got to go quick. We don't have time for some of y'all that are real verbal. Like, let me tell you about my life story. We don't have time for that. We're going to get in, talk, get out. Okay. We're practicing. This is a practice. All right. All right. Let me set you guys up here. Have fun. You should see something pop up on your screen. Just click that and you'll enter into the room. Look at all these high achievers, you guys getting done quick.
I have a question.
Yep.
So in our group, we need a little bit more clarification about the exercises. So
Okay.
there was like, so
You
in
wanna,
each-
you wanna wait till everyone's here?
yes, I will.
Awesome. It's like 4 seconds. Mm. I lost. There you are. Okay. I like to watch. Everybody's moving around, so I have to like move people. Okay. Yes. Go for it. Ask your question now.
Okay, so in each chapter, there's several exercises that have multiple questions and then the reflection, whatever kind of thing. And so when you're saying we need to do 2, we choose an entire thing and answer all those questions, and that's considered 1.
That's 1.
Okay, that's what I would needed to know.
You got it. That's it. You did it. You're doing 2 of those.
Thank you.
Quick question too. It's not 2 per chapter, right? It's 2 per like section per
Two
assignment.
per exercise. 2 per exercise.
Okay.
2 per exercise. You can do 1 in chapter 1 and 1 in chapter 2. I don't care. It's easier to do it in the same chapter, but I even hate saying what I just said because that confuses people. Here's the deal. If this class turns them all in correctly, you're all going to get a prize. Right? So yes, it's exactly, Allison, like you just described. You just literally described it perfectly. That's it. Any other question about that? Any other questions come out of your group?
Can I just ask, sorry, I keep on
Yeah.
asking questions.
Yeah, you're fine.
Usually people put, and I haven't looked at the Moodle thing because I've been on training for school, is that there's a PowerPoint that goes with the chapter. Is that the case for your class as well or not?
I have PowerPoints for the chapters, but I don't, sometimes I mean, I tell you what, I'll put them up. If you want to have them, you can have them, but it's not necessarily. But if you would like the PowerPoints, I will put the PowerPoints on Moodle.
Yeah.
For the whole chapter, for the whole book.
Yeah, it's just for me because, well, the way I like it, it just gives me direction when I'm making notes.
Okay.
Just to think about things, especially if you're saying it's quite a heavy textbook to
Yep.
like kind of read. So it kind of gives me direction when I'm
Yep.
taking it.
And just FYI, when we have our classes, when our classes start, I use PowerPoint inside the classes as well. So I can do it both ways.
All right,
Yeah.
brilliant. Thank you.
Nope, no problem. Okay, now here's what I want to know. Inside your groups, like what things are you excited about? Like what things you're like, I really want to know this, or I'm excited about these. And I already know everyone has to take the class, so don't say that. I have to take this class and I had to do it. I already know that. I don't want to know that. I want to know things you're excited about.
For me, it's the practical aspect. Being able to actually have you discuss how it's going to look in practice. I can read a textbook, I can understand that, but to actually see it play out. And I know last semester you did a counseling session with a student that asked a question, and it was nice to see the back and forth between you and the student, and to see it play out in real lifetime.
Did I do that on purpose?
Yes, yeah, they
Okay.
questioned and then you dug deeper and you allowed them to be vulnerable and they allowed themselves to be vulnerable in the safe place, but it was nice to see it play out.
Okay, good. So it was good. Oh man, good. Good on me. That's awesome. No, we might do that. I mean, sometimes that happens. I am a therapist, y'all, and I really care about you guys. Like I really want you to learn and grow. And so sometimes I might lean on you a little bit. In this class, it's not controversial, but it's opinion. Like we have opinions about stuff. And this class brings out opinions more than my other classes. Not bad, not in a bad way, it just does. So anything else?
I'm excited
interested in-
to go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Rhonda. I was just going to say I'm excited to learn more about the theories, and I know we'll just kind of skim them, but that's a good intro to dive deeper later.
Yeah, the theories are super important. We'll skim 2 or 3 of them. Attachment theory we'll dive into a little deeper just because it's I lean towards attachment, but attachment's also it's almost universal across ethnicities and genders and even cultures. It's fairly holistic, not perfect, but we'll kind of lean on attachment theory more than the other ones. But yeah, we'll definitely do that. Rhonda, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I'm interested in learning more about some of the more neurological research that's been done and the things that we're actually learning about how the brain works and how we respond. So I'm really interested in that.
Me too. Yeah, and that's changing all the time. It's changing all the time because our so basically our brains are, and practically speaking, like as clinicians, we have cognitions and we have emotions and we have behaviors, and they all interact with each other, right? So as cognitions, we're always trying to figure out how to help those interact the best they can. So I just, gave you the answer to every psychological question right there. That's it. And that's what we do as clinicians for the most part. So yeah, we'll definitely dive into, and the neurological piece is super fascinating. So you can blame Dr. Armstrong. He's converted me into basically I'm like a neuroscience nerd. So I have textbooks. I mean, it's stupid stuff I've gone into, like rabbit holes I've gone down. I'm reading this huge book right now. Look at this massive book. It's called How Emotions Are Made. Don't write it down. You're not going to read it. You don't have time. This is pretty interesting. And we'll talk a lot about emotions in this class because that's what you work with clients on, emotions a lot. It's very important. Okay. Any other excitement we have? Anybody else?
I'm just excited about understanding the brain and how it functions. I know that that'll help me understand people that I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
If I understand what they're, just
Mm-hmm.
the makeup and the behavior, the changes and things like that. So I'm really excited about that.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. There's always a reason why things happen. And there's reasons why we do things, say things, don't do things, or don't say things. It's like a puzzle. Sometimes we have to put it together, but typically there's a reason, especially the people that we work with. There's usually a reason why something's going on or not going on. So we'll talk about all that. Anybody else? All right. So next week, we will dive right into childhood. I'm going to skip over, like prenatal, postnatal, birth. Everyone knows how babies are made. We're not going to talk about that. Everybody's good with that. We're going to jump into mainly like toddlerhood and on. So we're talking 3, 4, 5. Probably we'll get through elementary. That's kind of broad, but we'll talk a lot about those areas in a couple of different ways. I'll have some PowerPoint, and then we'll do at least one breakout group where we'll talk about a couple of things. And And also, I'm going to have time at the end of each class for questions. Like if you want to ask questions about anything we talked about or whatever, I'll set aside, a good 15 or 20 minutes for that too. The link will be, I think the link's on Moodle now for that class. I can't think of anything else. Any other questions about anything? All right. So I'll see you guys next week. Some of you I'll see more than once. Awesome. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Thank
You
you.
too.